thank you for being here. It is worth doing when we get this kind of a crowd to turn out. This is the 13th annual GRO-Biz. Diana and I have enjoyed all of them, and getting to meet the people that are running businesses across the state and who take the time out to come and learn more to expand their business. You have to keep growing your business. If it's not growing, it's getting rotten. And you put in the extra time and effort to be here, and we really appreciate it. We do this conference. When I first got in the Senate, I tried to get this kind of a conference to Wyoming. I'd heard about it in some other states. And they kept saying, well, Wyoming's a pretty small state. I said, no, it's a big state. We just have a small population. We've got a lot of great businesses. And I finally heard that they were going to have one in Billings, Montana. And I said, well, if you're going to be in Billings, you're not very far from Wyoming. Why don't you just drop down and do one there too? I said, oh, okay, we'll do that. But if you don't have 100 participants, we'll never be back. Well, we had 130 participants that pre-registered. That's not usual in Wyoming, pre-registering. But we had another 30 businesses that showed up, and so they've been back every year. One of the interesting parts about this is Montana hasn't been able to meet it yet. So they had one conference. Karen McCreary from my Cody office was one of the organizers of that very first one in Cody. She's now my state director, and Renee Bender's here from my staff, and she helps with this effort. In fact, you know, this is a tremendous partnership effort to be able to put on something like this. You've heard some of those mentioned already. The governor and his staff, the Small Business Administration, the Entrepreneur PTAC, the Small Business Development Council, the Wyoming Research Network, and of course, people from my staff. And these folks don't just come this weekend and put this on. They work on it all year to make sure that it will be successful and to have follow-up afterwards to see if you have questions. And while there are a lot of things that happen at the conference, there are even more that happen after the conference. We've had some people that have actually gone through some of the federal documents and kind of on their own been able to bid. In fact, I remember a Casper company that we actually went to visit because we wanted to see the entrepreneurship there. They knew how to bend metal special ways. And they found that the Marines wanted to build a tank that was 8 foot by 8 foot by 8 foot for storing liquids and had to be made out of a special metal. And they put in a bid. And they got a call from the Marines and said, you've got the bid, but you've got to bring us the prototype in 2 weeks. Well, they still had to invent some of the bending for this thing. It all had to have rounded corners. And they did. And they loaded it on a flatbed and they hauled it down to Georgia. And the Marines said, you know, you're the first people that ever delivered your product themselves. Of course, they brought up another problem for us later, and that's that the bid always called for 6 of these at a time. They said, you know, if there were 8 at a time, they'd fit on a flatbed and we could save a lot of money for the government. And we're still working that one. Every year, the goal of this conference, of course, is to help you to achieve. There's the opportunity not only to hear from the federal agencies that are here, and I'm always pleased that so many of them come, but it's a chance to network with the other businesses as well, and also the state agencies that can help you and your business. So do make use of those tables that have the special names on them and meet the people and find out what you can. This can be an outstanding opportunity for you. And I want to thank Senator Brasso for being here this morning. He's my partner in the U.S. Senate in Washington. He's in the leadership and he's handling a number of the issues that will be critically important to you. He's trying to come up with some fixes to Obamacare so that small business can continue to provide health care and bring down some of the costs. And he's a doctor, so he knows how to do a lot of those things, and there are a lot of us participating with it to make sure that it gets better and that the things that the president promised actually are delivered, even though they aren't in that bill. I serve on the budget committee, and that's what I've been dedicated to the last few weeks. I'm the first accountant to chair the budget committee, which kind of tells you a lot. For the last 6 years, we haven't had a budget, so it's kind of like trying to do an audit on a business that hasn't been audited in 6 years. And I'm trying to straighten that all out, and of course, we'll keep an eye on what happens with particularly small business. Diane and I were in the shoe business, and that was a small business. We wound up with 3 stores, and so we know what it is to have employees and customers. Of course, that's the most important part, the customers. I keep reminding people on the small business committee that a small business is one where the owner sweeps the streets, cleans the windows, cleans the toilets, waits on customers, and does the accounting. And definitely not in that order. The federal definition for a small business is 500 employees or less. I think of businesses headquartered in Wyoming, we have one of those. But we have a lot of small businesses, and we can make it better for you, and are working on that, and appreciate any suggestions that you have. I once held a hearing here in my first hearing I held in Casper, and it was for the small business committee on some small business problems. And I remember the media coming up to me afterwards and said, "You only had about 100 people here. Were you kind of disappointed?" I said, "Well, no, that was pretty much 100 different businesses, and any small business that has enough people to come to a government hearing probably has one too many people." So this is a much different conference than that. This is one where you can get a lot of benefit from it. It's not the government telling you what to do. It is the government explaining how you can do some of the things that will help you. And I'm pleased with the contracts that we come away with every year on this. During the year, one of the things that Diane and I do is visit small businesses across the state. Last October, we got to 50 different businesses. And I'm always surprised at the variety of business that we have in Wyoming, and the things that I didn't know came from Wyoming. And one of the things that always fascinates me is the decisions that each of you have to make to keep your business going. You know, anybody that hasn't worked in your business will think that it's pretty simple. But if they take a minute to explore it, they'll find out the kinds of decisions that you're having to make on a daily basis that determine whether your business continues or not. And I congratulate you for having the courage to do that. I'm reminded of Lou Holtz's win. He was always interested in winning, and you're interested in winning for your business. So he used the acronym WIN, and that stands for what's important now. That's what you have to do. Sometimes there are things you really like to do when you get to work, but you find out that there are other things that are important that you have to do right at that moment, or your business will not succeed. So I congratulate you for coming. I thank you for coming, so that we can continue to have this great turnout and continue to get the federal government to come to Wyoming and enjoy a little bit of Wyoming, and at the same time help us to grow business in Wyoming. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the governor of Wyoming, talk about a business-friendly place. He has helped to make us the most business-friendly state in the United States. And he goes and sells Wyoming to the world. Not an easy task just from the travel standpoint of it, but he's done an outstanding job with that. He's helped to diversify things. He brought NCAR and now Microsoft. And Microsoft just announced a huge expansion the other day. So we get some diversification that way. We're the best run state in the nation. We have the lowest unemployment. He's helped with making sure that we had a wolf plan that until a Washington, D.C. judge took a look at it, everybody else knew that it was really good, that it was working, that it was actually the best wolf plan in the nation. And he's got a sage grouse plan, which is another thing that other states are having to worry about. He occasionally challenges the Fed, and he keeps his delegation informed, which we really appreciate. He has a lot of good ideas there. And in fact, he gave me an idea on how to prioritize for the budget that I'm trying to work in, trying to get them to eliminate the worst first. And that's a tough thing in government. If you eliminate the worst first, then you can make the best better. and he's been doing that with Wyoming. So I give you, the governor of the state of Wyoming, bat me.